around one and all as we celebrate the magic of women in cinema at our Film Coven. We're your hosts, Kelli Mehan
and Melissa Woody, and today we are inducting Miss Fran Kubelik from The Apartment.
I am excited. New year, new look, new page. That's the motto. Mel, this is definitely like your one that we've pushed for. Tell us why, though, we're celebrating sort of like, we've chosen Fran to kick off our new year. Why?
We chose Fran because we're going to be covering classics in our first collection of Film Coven videos this year. And you say a lot where movies come at a time in your life where like you're going to take it in. It's like the right time to take it in. The Apartment is like one of those movies for me. It's one of those movies where I was 18, working full-time, going to school full-time, wasn't really spending much time with family over the holidays, and I stumbled upon this movie, and it's just held such a special place in my heart over the years. And it's one that I rewatch around the New Year, Christmas holiday season. And I felt so connected to that Fran character at that time of my life, where it's kind of just stuck with me over the years. How did you first get connected with the Apartment and Fran?
With The Apartment, so this is very similar to a few of my other classic stories where it was like a good 10 or so years ago, just being early 20s and going, I've always liked older movies. I've always had an appreciation for black and white movies. Breakfast at Tiffany's was my favorite movie for a long time. It's still pretty up there. But trying to plug some of those blind spots, and also just discovering more of like film podcasts, film websites, things like that. So The Apartment's one that tends to come up quite frequently as one of the best movies ever made, and it most definitely is. So this is one I saw, I would say, after Some Like It Hot, I think after Sunset Boulevard, and then I've hit The Apartment. So to finally understand like Billy Wilder, I'm like, this is my guy, like this is my director, he makes movies I love. And to see Jack Lemmon again, because Some Like It Hot, after I watched it the first time, was already an instant classic for me. And such a different role. But I'd only ever seen Shirley MacLaine in Steel Magnolias and probably other like late end career stuff. So that was very much my perspective of her. So the Fran character as well, like talk about being a struggling adolescent, early 20s, trying to find your way in life. I think a lot of people can relate to the Fran character. Melissa, I had a thought, and I've been saving it for you because I need it. Here we go. Here it is. I'm a little bit proud of this one.
Okay.
Taylor Swift wished she could write as good lyrics as the lines that Fran says in these movies.
I mean, I agree.
She's not wrong.
No.
In this most recent rewatch, because this is my third watch now, I'm like, God damn, this could be a Taylor Swift lyric. And multiple times. The mirror stuff, the mascara stuff, like, we'll get to it, but it would be like a zinger line off. I'd say it's like more Red, more 1989, like more that sort of era.
I'm just not as familiar with Taylor Swift, to be honest, but I believe it.
There's a lot of this that gives me like blank space. Like I think that's why.
Darling, I'm a nightmare dressed like a daydream.
Mel, what specifically about the Fran character is it that you like?
I like how relatable she is, and I think she's maybe a little bit of the trope of the girl next door, but I think this is one of the most authentic depictions of that, or like that trope. Yeah, I just find her so layered. Like she's sexy, she's cute, she's smart, she's witty, she's sad. Like she's all these different things. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like this very much is a character who's a little bit lost in life and like finding her way and being used by different characters in the movie, and she's also maybe using characters in the movie as well. And yeah, I find her humor and her wit and her charm just really endearing. What about you?
Yeah, very much that, because you talk about like being a sad character that's putting on a brave face. I think I always really relate to those characters. I don't know if I get Girl Next Door. I see what you mean in the sense that, like, it's Baxter's dream girl and she just, like, maybe that Mary Jane Watson-ish, like, but it's something else as well. It's not Manic Pixie Dream Girl mixed in, but it's something about, like, having an unattainable girl as well. Like, she's not sweet and wholesome, which I quite like. She is quite wry and has a weird sense about the world, but doesn't know her place in it, as we sort of saying, like being a bit of a lost character, being someone that, I don't know, I think this is where the Taylor Swift comes into it all. Like, she gives me very, like, Dear Diary, and, like, at that stage of life, where you think you are saying more important things than what it is. Like, do you get what I mean? When, like, you had your experimental writing phase when you're a late teenager. And it's like, I'm being very profound right now.
I completely agree. Yeah, I think she thinks she's wiser and, like,
thank you,
than she actually maybe is. She's actually quite naive, as we learn. Again, I find her very relatable in the sense of, like, I'm a romantic and just, like, falling hard for somebody who again is maybe not truly attainable to you.
Now, it's really funny when you just say that I'm a romantic part and falling hard for someone. I didn't know for a second if you're speaking about Baxter falling for Fran or Fran falling for Sheldrake.
It's both, really.
Okay. Well, tell us about how we meet Miss Kubelik.
This movie is very much in the 1960s because Fran is an elevator girl, which is such a funny concept from a today's lens that, like, this was actually a job that, you know, you'd wear this uniform in this, like, corporate building and press a button. Like,
the flourish and the style which she does it with, though, oh girl.
So we meet her in the elevator, and yeah, she just, like you said, she has such a great flair with, like, her movement and her words, like, blasting off.
Blasting off.
Like, it's just so cute.
She's making the workday fun. Like, I love a character because I feel like I do the same. Where at your workplace, like, you just saying, like, little quirky offbeat things just to sort of, like, have a bit of a fun with it. And not everyone gets that. Not everyone is always on that wavelength. Like, when you speak out loud some of those funny thoughts, and sometimes you get real normal people just go like, okay. But, like, if you can have fun with it, that's what I love about her.
And I think we also kind of get a lot of, like, what she deals with as a person in the intro scene, because you get introduced to her. Baxter goes into the elevator. They have some nice banter, but then as he's leaving, another man smacks her ass. So it's just like that workplace, like,
it's
like
the 60s.
Yeah, like normalcy at that time. But I love that she comes back and is kind of like threatens to, like, chop off his arm.
One of these days I'm going to shut these doors on you, and 20 next.
So I love that she still has, like, that conviction and, like, stands strong to her character, even though, like, it's not great that, like, that's occurring. We meet her the first time, you know, when Baxter's, like, going to work for the day, and then as like, the story's progressing, Baxter is up for a promotion or a talk with Mr. Sheldrake. And it's funny because Baxter goes, you know, back to the elevator, and he goes to another elevator, but then we hear Fran going up, and then he gets out of that elevator to go in with her to have, again, some more banter and conversation with each other. From there, she kind of wishes him good luck and gives her the flower.
Okay, these are my notes. Very shocking. But my first note is, and it's stream of consciousness stuff. Usually I'm, like, on my phone so I can do that. Okay, my first note, flower. How cute is that?
Yes.
How cute is that? That she gives him this little token. I think that's what it reminds me of, like, old-fashioned courting. Like, here's the flower, wish you good luck. And then my next note is noticing manners. And I think that's sort of what it comes off with what you're saying is how most of the other men in the office might see her as a piece of ass. But Baxter has really nice manners, and she can see that and take it into account.
Yeah, he takes off his hat, and it is more maybe having those friendly banter conversations with her. Obviously, because, I mean, he has a crush on her. But, like, I think, like you're saying, she's picking up that this guy seems really sweet and nice, and, like, I enjoy, like, his presence in the elevator.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but at this point in time, we hear some of the gentlemen that are in the office and possibly renting Baxter's apartment. But I think we hear about Miss Kubelik that, you know, no one's got very far with her, that she doesn't really participate in any of the office after hours stuff, or that everyone's tried to crack onto her, so to speak, and no one's got very far. What's your sort of take on that?
I think she definitely tries to act a little mysterious. I think this movie is about surfaces and, like, how you present in the world. She wants to have a low profile. She kind of wants to be under the radar, especially considering she is having an affair with the boss of the company. And so I think she wants to, like, be under the radar and not stand out too much. And yeah,
that is an absolute ding dong, because still both times, like, this is what I love about a Billy Wilder film, is that it sort of sets up your expectations about, yes, no one gets very far with Miss Kubelik. And I think that leads into our next scene of her at the Chinese restaurant meeting the big boss. So it's really funny. I think that's the text that we're supposed to be knowing. And it takes me off guard every time I watch it, that's how they've set it up, where it's like, sports. It's the layup. It's the layup. No one gets very far with Miss Kubelik. It's the spike down. She's actually getting it on with Sheldrake.
Exactly. Love the sports reference. I was not expecting that. I was expecting, a Simpsons reference, or, like,
It must be, it's the holidays, like the cricket's on. I don't know. It's in the background somewhere. But that leads us to what I think is one of the strongest scenes of the film, which is this Fran and Sheldrake interaction at the Chinese restaurant. What do you think about this scene? Set it up for us.
Do, 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 do.
It's the music. It's the music, hey.
It's so good. Like... been singing that for a few weeks now, it feels like. I watched this movie a few weeks ago, and then I watched it again today. Yeah, just that theme. I love that it plays throughout the film. But yeah, I want to say this is the first time. If not, maybe it was like the intro. I guess in the intro scene. But, like, I think this is the first time within, like, the film itself. I love this scene with Sheldrake and Fran. Like you're saying, the Taylor Swift of it all. I love the quote of, like, same booth, same song, same sauce, sweet and sour. Like,
same booth, same song.
It's been hell.
Same sauce, sweet and sour.
Come on.
Fran might have some of the best lines in movie history, I think. Like, the batting average for what I think could be iconic quotes. What is the sports? Why are we watching The Apartment? And I'm like... She starts, like you said, these quips and this wit. And I think it is maybe, as you're sort of saying, she's with this older man. I wonder if she's trying to protect herself by using these words. And as I sort of said, feeling like she's much more mature or much more profound or learned than what she really is on the inside. But I thought that quote was amazing as well. The music, very as time goes by.
Play as time goes by.
Very play it, Sam. I love that entry she has as she walks through the restaurant and finds the booth. What are your takes on the Fran Sheldrake relationship? Let's just get into it.
Problematic. I mean, I think, again, going back to I think a lot of this film is about, again, like, how you are perceived in the world, or, like, perceptions. And I think, kind of like you're saying, I think she thinks she's a lot wiser, smarter, whatever. And I think this is a little bit of maybe a fantasy she has kind of concocted in her head of like, I'm in love with this guy, he's in love with me, is what she thinks, like truly, deeply, like, but that's not the case. And I think she maybe has this fantasy of like, oh, like I'm going to live this great, he's going to leave his wife, we're going to live this great life, he's rich, that kind of thing. I think that's what, I think it's the status of like after, but as we know, the after never happens. And it even kind of happens in this conversation too, where, you know, they're reminiscing about the time that they spent in the summer. And she's kind of like, dude, it's over. But she clearly still loves him, and he is using her, you know, for sex and not so much for the actual like love and emotion behind the relationship, which is what she believes in or believed in at one point. But yeah, I don't think the relationship is good. I think it's problematic, manipulative probably on both ends. I think at the end of the day, I think they're both using each other for different reasons. He's using her for sex, and she's using him to fulfill a fantasy, I think, in her head that's not real. What do you think about their relationship?
I sort of posited the question to you first because this is the one part that's always really confused me. And you've just illuminated a few things for me, so thank you, doll. Because I can see what he sees with her, but I've never been able to understand what she got into it for. And maybe this is that sort of post-breakup, again, trying to put on the brave face. But I've never really understood why she would get into that relationship, because she just, what we've presented at this point always seems a bit more, not smarter, but she should know better that he's not going to leave his wife. So I think you might be right. I wonder if we're seeing that the after effects of getting wrapped up in the fantasy, and now she's back to the realities and putting on that brave face and trying to make sense of it all and move on. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe is it a chemistry thing or something? I've just never bought into the Fran being so hopelessly devoted to Mr. Sheldrake.
Yeah, and because I mean, at the end of the day, we don't see the summer scenes. We don't see their romance. You know, it's just all implied on like what has happened. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think it's up to interpretation probably a little bit. But yeah, that's what I get from it. I think she truly was in love with this guy at some point, and so I think that is the why. And sometimes you can't control who you fall in love with, even if it is this older man that is your boss.
And I know we get a bit of a piece of the puzzle later that Fran's sister's husband comes looking for her.
Yeah, her
so
brother.
Obviously, and being in the 60s, it's probably a big city, moved out from a home, living with the sister, like probably searching for some sort of stability or being taken care of is definitely a big part of it. Yeah,
and I think knowing he's like financially wealthy would fulfill that feeling of feeling secure. So, because that's another thing too. We don't fully know what her home life looks like. We know that she lives with her sister and brother-in-law, which kind of tells me she's probably, and I mean, she's an elevator girl, which she's probably not making that much money. She's not like independently on her own financially. So that definitely could be a huge factor that makes him attractive is the money.
I'm going to posit you an uncomfortable truth and question.
Okay.
Do you think the character of Fran has low self-esteem?
That is a good, interesting question. I would say yes and no.
1 hour later.
I'll tell you why I thought of that. Only because we were talking about motivations. And just being a young, beautiful, pretty intelligent woman, you would think she would have her pick of anyone. Going for Mr. Sheldrake and going for an unattainable married man, do you think she has low self-esteem, and that's why another reason she doesn't feel worthy of love, of feeling that way? And we sort of see that as more comes on with the mirror. I definitely want to get into that quote because that is the best quote of the film.
I think where I'm landing is think she has low self-worth, which I'm not trying to be like semantical, but like a little bit, because I think kind of like you're saying, I do think, and we'll get into it, I think she manipulates situations a little bit, tells me she's not, I don't think she has low self-esteem, but I think she has low self-worth, which, I mean, I don't know. I guess they can be used interchangeably, but like, I agree with what you're saying. I think ultimately she is feeling very low in her life, I think is safe to say. Like, and I think she's trying to find that security within Mr. Sheldrake, in that maybe within herself too. Like yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm saying that right, but I don't know. That's a tough question.
It is.
Oh, I love Miss Olsen and her cat eyeglasses with her little she turns, puts on those cat.
Is she the drama? I think she is.
Is it me? Am I the drama? I don't think I'm the drama.
And also like the cheetah print. I do really like the Miss Olsen character. She sees them, and of course, like you said, she is the drama, and she uses that information for leverage later.
I'm just looking at my notes.
2 hours later.
And I've got haircut.
They talk about it in the intro scene with Baxter and Fran, but then also they talk about it at the restaurant as well. So Baxter comments on her hair and says, "Oh, you cut it." And she goes, "Oh, I got a little nervous and cut it," which I love.
What did you do to your hair?
It was making me nervous, so I chopped it off. Big mistake, huh?
That's the like phrasing is like, it's the equivalent of like cutting your bangs, but like bad breakup bangs.
Nothing says post breakup like doing something reckless with your hair. We have all done it, whether it's bangs, whether it's color and streak.
Yeah, exactly. And just to be clear, I love this haircut on her. I think it looks great. And that's basically what Baxter says. Like, he's like, you look great. Cut to scene with Sheldrake. He's like, you cut your hair. I like it better longer. And I'm like, this fucking guy.
I see you went ahead and cut your hair.
That's right.
You know I liked it better long.
I know. You want a lock to carry in your wallet?
Like, get out of here.
Absolutely. And doesn't that just say a lot about like being appreciated for who you are? And maybe he's living in that fantasy of wanting to keep what happened in the summer going, and she's not living up to what his ideal is at the moment. And he's also probably very traditional and doesn't like seeing what would have at the time been a more masculine presenting haircut, I'm sure, with how short it is.
Also, if we just like take a step back, like, again, I think it goes into the conversation of like the fantasy behind this romance, where like it sounds like they went to this restaurant often. Like the waiters recognize them. They get the same thing every time.
They're the usual.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that just tells a lot about the situation, where it's like you're in this pattern of like not changing, and it's not going to change, honey. Like, he's not going to take you to a fancier restaurant. He's not going to leave his wife, type of thing. Like, that's kind of what I took from it, that like, it's not going to change the situation.
And do we not find out later that the drama herself, Miss Olsen, even says, let me guess, Chinese restaurant, back booth? She knows.
Yeah. So Miss Olsen and Fran have kind of a banter, or
a tete-a-tete. Yes.
at the office holiday party, where basically this is where everything is revealed, like truly about Mr. Sheldrake. Because I think up to this point, it's like, Fran, come on, like, she should be like smart enough to know what's kind of going on, like see the writing on the wall, but I don't think she quite does until this scene. Like, I think once Miss Olsen kind of names off, including herself, as people who had...
there was this, then there was this. Like, you're not special was the subtext of that.
As the branch manager from Kansas City. I beg your pardon? I'm Miss Olsen, Mr. Sheldrake's secretary. Yes, I know. So you don't have to play innocent with me. He used to tell his wife I was the branch manager from Seattle 4 years ago, and we were having a little ring-a-ding-ding.
Yeah, and you could just see the whole demeanor change with that conversation.
What an absolute sandbag gut punch moment. Yeah, have definitely felt that sort of feeling before of you think you are the one for someone, and yeah, I guess it's just that realization of you're being cheated on. I think it feels similar to that, which is again very funny considering that, well, it gets into the question of adultery, which is really, it's a complex one. You can fall on that on many different ways, but I guess at the end of the day, it's like, well, if he's cheating on his wife with you, what makes you think that he hasn't been doing this already? And I've had that in my life. Like, if he's cheated on you once, why would he not keep doing it if you do that? So I think it's a big learning curve, a big growing up moment. But I would actually like at this moment to talk about Baxter, because this is our protag, this is our film, this is our narrator, and we haven't even got into him yet because he's such a lovely, just there sort of character, which is the way it's meant to be. It's meant to be that sort of everyman, fade into the background almost, that guy in the office that no one really takes notice of until he's useful for you. But what are your thoughts on Jack Lemmon and his portrayal of Cece Baxter?
I absolutely adore this character, and I love Jack Lemmon. I was talking to my husband as we were watching it today that, like, I think from a modern movie perspective, now I would say it's not like to the same degree of performance, but I don't know why it reminds me of this, but he very much gives me Stanley Ipkiss from The Mask. Like,
you really think hundreds of women are looking for a guy like me?
There's something about Jack Lemmon that reminds me of Jim Carrey. There's just something, and I don't know if it's just because I've seen so many Jim Carrey movies where I'm like, I think he's been very heavily influenced by watching Jack Lemmon movies. Anyways, but no, I love this performance. Like you said, I think he's just like a lovable goofball of a man, and he's adorable, and he's very likable. But there's this sadness to him, which makes him relatable, I think. But he is the ultimate pushover. I mean, the whole time you're like, come on, man, like, stick up for yourself. But like, let's have that moment at the end of the movie. But yeah, I think Jack Lemmon just nails this performance out of the park.
I think what you're picking up on is that, like, we see Jack Lemmon in some roles, like Some Like It Hot, where like the broad comedy strokes are just really, and the physical comedy is there, and then being able to rein it in for something like this performance. But his comedic timing is what makes the character and what makes Baxter so lovable. So like my favorite scene of him by far is when he's sitting down to watch TV's Hollywood Legends, and it's like each name comes up on the screen. I think it was Grand Hotel starring Joan Crawford, Henry Fonda. Like, he just I feel, because that's the way I feel sometimes when I'm watching these old like big ensemble movies now, when the names come up on screen, you're like, oh, like, so him sitting down to his dinner watching a classic movie, which cracked me up because this is 1960, so what Grand Hotel is like 32, 33, something like that. We're talking 30-ish years ago. That's like if we're watching something from the 90s now, we're like, it's like, oh, Jim Carrey, oh, Cameron Diaz, oh, like, it would be like that.
Yeah.
But Jack Lemmon carries a lot of the film because you need to still have something that draws you into liking this character. So you think about him with these interactions with the doctor, or like the big misunderstanding that he's this playboy because all these women and he's having these big loud parties and such. But the reality is that he's getting sick waiting on the sidewalk. But he has those quips, those quick comedic, like offhander comments, which are more to himself than to anything else, which really is that 60s comedy, which I love from a moviegoer perspective. That's what makes me really love it. Again, that dialogue that gives me Some Like It Hot, that gives me Sabrina, that gives me those sorts of Sunset Boulevard, even like those ones that are too more offhanded, which are directed to the audience more than to any character in the film.
Yeah, like one of my favorite little moments is when he's sick, and it's right after the conversation with him and Mr. Sheldrake, and like he has that little like squirt bottle that he keeps squirting to his nose, and he just like squirts the little flower. It's so stupid, but I love it.
which makes those characters feel more lived in. The reason I wanted to bring up Baxter now is that we see that when we introduce the character of Fran, like, she's got a bit of spunk. And I think that's another thing that sets her apart from a lot of maybe the other what would be female characters of the 60s. I've resisted for however long we've been going from bringing up Mad Men, but obviously very heavily inspired. So she gives more the Christina Hendricks maybe character of ruling the roost, but then she is like cheating with the boss, John Slattery's character. It's been a little while since I've seen it, but that's what it was.
I was like, yes.
Yes, something with that's familiar. Yeah. In the sense that she can be more assertive, that she, like I said, she has that bit of spunk, that bit of cheat, that bit of goal that maybe sets her apart from what would maybe be some of the other wallflower type characters that we might have seen in the time. Or maybe, we see she's a perfect contradiction to one of the other female workers. I think it's maybe the phone.
Sylvia. Sylvia. Yeah.
There it is. Who is very cheating with one of the other executives, and he only took me here. And you know, when they wanted to give women of the 60s that type of voice because we're meant to not like them. Oh my God. Oh, hang on. I wrote something. Phone operator. Bigger car, smaller girl. Hamburger, something apart. Does that make sense?
Yeah, she says something to the effect of like, he just brought me to this like schmuck's apartment in this hamburger joint, you know, something like that.
So I figure a man in his position, he'll take me to El Morocco, maybe 21. Instead, he takes me to Hamburg Heaven and some schnook's apartment.
Whereas we never see Fran presented in that way. She's spunky, she's assertive with Mr. Baxter, and then that dichotomy of being such a doormat for Mr. Sheldrake and being be manipulated by that. So, it makes me so uncomfortable, but it is like one of the big underlying currents of the movie, and I'd be remiss if I don't ask your feelings and to expose on this. You've talked about what it is about being on the surface. I think this movie gives me very much attraction and versus compatibility in relationships, because she's obviously very attracted to Mr. Sheldrake, but she is very compatible with Baxter, but I do not believe she's attracted to Baxter at all.
Oh,
what is your take on it?
I think she eventually is, but maybe I'm just being romantic.
And it's really funny that we've just done this Molly Ringwald episode. It's very Pretty in Pink to me. She is attracted to Blaine, but she would be more compatible with Ducky. So Fran is our Molly Ringwald, Mr. Sheldrake is our Blaine, and Ducky is our Baxter. I see that dynamic all over the place.
Yeah, I can see it. Pretty in black and white.
Except no ugly dress in this one. And I brought it up in that episode, and I think it's pertinent to this one as well. It's just an unfortunate life truth that sometimes you don't feel that attraction to people that you feel like you should be with or that would be good for you.
3 hours later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
Okay. Let's talk The Mirror.
So at the holiday office party, we get this scene of Baxter and Fran in his new office, and he has this hat that he's showing off, which is really cute. He's like, "How do I look?" And it's just so silly, but he looks great.
That's lovable.
Yes. And she hands him her mirror, and in an earlier scene, we saw Baxter return the mirror to Sheldrake because she had forgotten it at the apartment when they were there. And so this is the moment where Baxter has the reveal of Fran and Sheldrake's relationship. And it's devastating. Like, you could just tell how heartbroken he is when he finds this out. And I love the way it's shot with, like, the mirror and, like having the camera and like the perspective
reflected.
Of yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, it's fantastic. What do you think of the mirror scene?
Oh, this is where I'm all the way in love with the Fran character, because again, this is just that relatable adolescent growing up sort of feeling.
He's trying to act like he doesn't know what's going on. Like we as the audience kind of key in that like he just realized what's going on, but he's like trying to play it cool with Fran type of thing. But he's like, oh, it's broken, and she's like, just the way I feel, or so, it is something to that effect. I don't have the exact quote, but like,
the mirror, it's broken.
Yes, I know. I like it that way. Makes me look the way I feel.
Her basically saying that the mirror is broken and that is how she's feeling inside. And yeah, I think this is the moment of the Fran character, because I think that just says so much of like where she's at, and especially that she could just kind of like say that to him.
Yeah, I wrote my notes, importance of the broken mirror. Is it a little on the nose? Possibly, maybe, but
yeah.
It works. It works incredibly well, because who hasn't felt their way that when they look at themselves in the mirror, quote Mulan, when will my reflection show who I am inside?
Yes.
and that is sort of what she's saying. She's it makes me feel the way I am on the inside, that it's broken, that she isn't feeling whole, that she has been hurt, that she's hurting, that she's fractured, that she's at odds with herself, that she's not feeling pretty. And I don't mean just on the outside, I mean on the inside. She's yeah. And I think we've all felt that way, that trying to find your identity, or as I sort of said, when you're not able to recognize yourself at some point in time, or where am I, what am I doing? I think those are all big thoughts that are all encapsulated in that gorgeous little compact. And what a beautiful exterior, broken interior. I think that's what it is at the end of the day, and that's emblematic of our Fran character.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I actually like that you brought up about the pretty thing, because again, at the scene at the restaurant, I think she even says something to the effect of like, when I start to look at it all, it just starts to feel really ugly, is like the word she uses.
It all begins to look so ugly.
This script is just incredible. Like, it's so good.
It's
I know
it is an all-timer.
I know we were like shouting that with the Sunset Boulevard episode, but it's the same way, where I'm just like, okay, we're just gonna quote the whole thing and just like,
which is fine. This is what makes it one of the best movies of all time, because if you only have a black and white movie and you only are based on drama, your words, you must have memorable, witty, well-crafted dialogue. Otherwise, you don't be a classic. Let's talk about what gives this movie its dark comedy status, and what really surprised me the first time I watched it, because again, this has been billed as a comedy, and so when we get into the scene about Fran taking sleeping pills, trying to end her life, set us up, Melissa.
So at this point in the film, Baxter had just found out about Fran and Sheldrake's relationship, so he goes to the bar and he gets smashed. And I absolutely love that scene. I can't remember her name at the moment, I apologize, but like I love how she's like blowing things on his face and he's not paying attention. He's just so out of it. But anyways, and while he's getting smashed at the bar, it's because Sheldrake and Fran are at his apartment, and they definitely have I feel like on this watch, just the cruelness of Sheldrake in this scene like really stood out to me. I feel like and maybe again just with the perspective of doing the show or something, I don't know. It stood out a little bit more of just like how kind of cruel and cold he was being throughout their whole kind of like confrontation. And yeah, she's just crying. She's just numb at this point. Like she's just not really taking in a whole lot of what he is saying. And it's Christmas, and he says Merry Christmas, kisses her goodbye on the head because she says lipstick, watch out.
Careful, lipstick.
Merry Christmas.
So, just very cold and just, it made me feel icky watching. But then, Fran she goes into the bathroom and washes her face, and she takes sleeping pills that Baxter has in his cabinet. And I think for a scene that is about an attempted suicide, like you said, it does have this very dark comedic tone, because at this point in the scene, Baxter and his new lady friend are in the apartment, and then he finds Fran, and it's this level of comedy where it's like, the girl of my dreams is in my apartment that just took sleeping pills, and I'm possibly having sex with this married woman who has a husband in jail in Cuba. It's just like, and then I need to go get my neighbor doctor to help out with Fran. It's just it gets really zany quick.
Yes.
But it's dark. It's very dark with what's happening, but it's funny at the same time. How do you take this scene?
My note says Chekhov's sleeping pills. Because we get introduced to them, and I didn't pick up on it until this most recent watch as well, that we get introduced to Baxter taking them.
I'm already in bed, and I've taken a sleeping pill, so I'm afraid the answer is no.
So much earlier in the film, so that setup is there. I want to touch on what you said about the Sheldrake being really cold and stuff, because I find I dislike that character more each watch, which is really funny, because you think it would be from the start you dislike it, but I think it's because Fred McMurray does such an amazing job of portraying Sheldrake as just a regular man, as a regular businessman. He's not like evil, puppet master, anything. He just seems like a very self-involved, self-important man. So I'm picking up more on what you're saying, and I think maybe you are as well. And especially when you sort of start to know what's coming, you're reading into it a little bit more, and you know that, like, I get very swept up in what he's saying in the same way I'm pretty sure Fran does. Like, he's very persuasive. He's very charismatic in the sense of like, Fran, come on, you know, like, didn't we have that good time and all that? So it does sort of make you be, oh, come on, Fran, I'm nothing without you, or like, you're the one, or you make me feel this. You get very wrapped up in it all. So yeah, when you do get that stark contrast of Christmas time, I think specifically, when like he's not going to leave his wife, he's not going to leave his family, all that. And I think you start to see conversations of him speaking about Fran to other people and speaking about how sort of disposable she is.
Yeah, we get these, like you're saying, we get these like scenes where he's being very like persuasive and like charming in some ways. I think maybe just how many times I've seen it at this point, I don't know if I quite see that, but I think you can still see like what she might see in him, like you're saying. But in other scenes when Fran's not present, that the way that he's describing their relationship is just such a difference. Like, he's just like, you know, what? I'm just hanging out with this girl for laughs, and she thinks I'm going to leave her.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, like it's just really heartbreaking. And again, like that cold and cruelness, because this is something that's weighing incredibly heavy on her. Like, she thinks she's in love with this guy and is very invested emotionally, and like he is not. Again, it's more so the other scenes, not so much when they're together. It's like like you said, it's when he's talking about her with other people that he's just like, I'm just here for the sex, basically. When he says like for laughs, I feel like that's like for sex.
Yeah. Which I guess again leads her to this really dark place. And you asked me, what are my thoughts on this scene? So confronting to see. I love that it doesn't pull any punches though. It's very stark in what it is. It's not glamorized. It's not cut. It's not cut away from either. I do appreciate that if you're going to take on this subject matter, it's handled quite deftly.
I very much agree. I think it's handled very well, and like I think what you had said is perfect. It's not romanticizing this at all. It's not glamorizing it or anything like that. Like it's just like, this is what happens. And again, there's this level of humor as well when you take like a step back. But I think the whole scene is handled really, really well. And like you said, it's confronting and effective. And I think it's a turning point, absolutely, for Fran's character.
There's also that beat of humor that the doctor thinks that Fran has committed this act in regards to Baxter, and that, you know, his womanizing ways are ruining people.
Yeah, the sex pot of a man. Yeah.
As you sort of said, this is our turning point because Fran convalesces at Baxter's house for a few days, and they get to spend some time together, and it's very cute. And this is where this is another building block to me about how you can be compatible with people and grow together, but I still don't think she finds that attraction there.
Okay.
I just don't. But, and again, what I asked about, does she have low self-esteem or self-worth? She starts to see what a good person Baxter is and sort of let herself be more, it's the more relaxed I think we see, and like she's letting down a lot of that facade and starting to feel what it would be to be appreciated and to be with someone who does like her for who she actually is and is not just using her. I've got more notes. So
let's go.
Let's go. Okay. When you're in love with a married man, you shouldn't wear mascara.
When you're in love with a married man, you shouldn't wear mascara.
Ooh, again, that's another lyric. That's something else you would have written in your journal in a poem.
So that's the scene where they're having kind of that heated conversation. She's crying, and and she looks so beautiful, but she has, her face is kind of a mess with her mascara. And I guess that is good advice. Don't wear mascara.
I think that also ties into what we talk about a lot of like women who put that makeup on, and tied into that identity and what you're sort of saying, that surface. Like, it's really funny. Also, how many times have you joked off something when like you're crying or when you're emotional about something, and you just make that little joke to sort of deflate the situation or like move it on from feeling really looked at and feeling embarrassed about being emotional? Like
a self-soothing kind of joke. Kind of thing. Yeah. And she clearly uses humor as like a mechanism, I think, to get through life, because she's just, I mean, like you said, she just has these lines throughout. So I would agree. That's probably just something like, hey, to make myself feel a little better and make myself kind of laugh a little bit in this moment.
One more quote. I wonder how long it takes to get someone you're stuck on out of your system.
I wonder how long it takes to get someone you're stuck on out of your system.
Amazing. Here we go. This is just the quote book. I don't like myself very much anyway.
I don't like myself very much anyway.
I think this is all what we're talking about, and again, why we're just relating to her so much. She's just saying all our inner saboteur thoughts. Like, it's crazy.
Absolutely. Just in a very eloquent Billy Wilder kind of way. Like he does.
One of the reasons we're watching this, as you sort of said, it's New Year's. This is our New Year's scene. This is our New Year's movie. Melissa, set us up for New Year's Eve.
So yeah, I mean, this movie starts a little bit before Christmas, and then we end at New Year's. And at the end of the film, Fran and Seldrake are together because it's kind of all worked out. You know, he's left his wife, but really it's because Miss Olsen went to lunch with his wife and spilled the tea. And so he's the one who got left, not the other way around. But again, in the context of how Fran got that information, I don't think that's the story she was told, at least initially. And so, yeah, we have this scene of Seldrake and Fran at the restaurant. It seems to be, I think it looks to be the same Chinese restaurant that they've been going to on New Year's. And then Baxter has now quit his job, and he had his moment where he's just like, I'm out of here. And I was just like, yes. And so he's packing up his apartment, and we don't really know like where he's going or what he's doing. He doesn't know either. And I love this shot, Kelly, of Shirley MacLaine with the New Year's hat.
Yes.
And like the pearl, just the whole look, the aesthetic. It's so good. Yeah, she's having this conversation with Seldrake, and like she's just realizing that she's like, what am I doing here? Like, I think it's very much, she thinks this is what she wanted. She got it, but she's like, no, like this isn't right. This is not what my heart wants. This is not what I want to have happen. And she runs.
Do you think that's the direct result of staying at Baxter's for those couple of days and spending time with him and being looked after and cared for in a different way?
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe I agree with, she wasn't initially attracted to him or like saw him in that light, but I think I very much believe that, I mean, obviously there's physical attractiveness, but I think you can be attracted to somebody's personality. And I think when you get attracted to somebody's personality, the outside also like connects more. I think, I feel like I'm not saying that very well, but like...
It reminds me of Game of Thrones.
Go on.
Oh, the references today are not where I thought they'd be going. No, there's one scene in Game of Thrones that's always stuck out of my brain. It's from the first season. I'm pretty sure it's the first episode. And it's either, oh God, or it's the books. I'm not too sure. Ned and Catelyn were originally not betrothed to each other. She was meant to marry the brother before he died. She's shown up at Winterfell and she's like, it wasn't instant, we fell in love together. You grow together and you grow to love a person. So I think that's what you're tapping into. Yes. She's going to word it much more eloquently than I did, but it's just this really lovely scene. And I've always thought that that's a really lovely take on mature love as opposed to teenage infatuation, that, as you sort of said, that raw chemistry. That's immature, and I love that because I fully believe that you should grow and be appreciative of your partner. And so I think she's starting to get there by the end.
Yes.
I think so, maybe. But that initial attraction definitely isn't there for me. Let's talk it's not a Billy Wilder movie if you're not ending on an amazing, end scene.
Yeah.
This is an all-timer. Set it up, babe.
Oh, she's running, which I love that shot of her running in, the jacket. I love the way it moves.
It's the female Rocky.
Exactly. That song is going. I am pumped. She's running. And then we get, a very funny, dark humor joke. When she's running up the stairs and here's she thinks that Baxter has killed himself because in an earlier scene, he reveals he also had a suicide attempt or thoughts that also ended kind of in a comedic way. But then she busts in and he just opened up champagne. I love dark humor. So that gets me every time. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's so dark, but so funny. But yeah, she goes in and they finish their game of gym rummy, and it's so cute. I love it. Baxter's I love you, Miss Kubelik. I absolutely adore you.
I love you, Miss Kubelik.
3. Queen.
Did you hear what I said, Miss Kubelik? I absolutely adore you.
It really warms me, this ending, and, you want to say the quote? How do we end? What do you think of the scene?
I really, for a second, I'm like, bitch, you're not going to do the ending? Have you forgotten, the most important part?
No, I haven't. I just feel like I've been talking too long.
I don't have the delivery, I don't think. I think it's something like, shut up and deal.
Shut up and deal.
Something like that. There it is.
There it is.
She's an actress. This ending with, I love you, Miss Kubelik, shut up and deal. Thoughts, feelings, elocutions, hit me with it, because I have them.
Maybe you share the same opinion as Jeff. He's like, she didn't say it back. I mean, I love the ending. Also, she does drop a card, whatever. It does kind of bother me a little bit. Because she's just shuffling. She's smiling and looking at him and drops the card. I'm like, you dropped a card. That bothers me. But no, I think it's a great classic ending. If I'm really critiquing it, yeah, she does not verbally say I love you too, or me too, ditto, whatever. She does not reciprocate that.
I think it's her way of saying I care for you. So maybe she's just not there at the I love you stage yet. I think it's just her way of acknowledging that. It's a little bit like when someone says I love you too early and you're not in the same place yet. And we've seen her, as you sort of said, use humor to deflect, be that sort of self-deprecating and move. I think it's her way of saying, you idiot, I like you too. Maybe I'm not there yet, but I think it's a good way of saying a lot in a few words. How do you describe it? It's in that relationship vein of saying what you need to say, but not in the exact words.
Like you said, that she's very witty. So yeah, like that probably is her like little wink to him, saying like, "Me too, boo," but like doesn't say that.
What a absolutely fantastic movie we've been able to talk about. Let's get into some of the more technical sides of it. We've talked about the script. We've talked about our performances. What do you think about from the score and cinematography point of view that really stands out to you, Mel?
One of the scenes that I really love that we haven't talked about is I love how the office is filmed. I feel like they all look like ants. Like,
yeah.
I feel like this movie has a lot of commentary about the workplace at this time. Absolutely. I think this was a big shift in the culture. I think prior to this, I think it was a lot more of those blue collar jobs was a lot more common, in this like corporate style of work was something a little bit newer.
High-rise buildings, women at the typewriters, all that.
Yeah, and so I love that opening shot of Baxter just like in that room with all those people, kind of all just very like nameless, faceless ants, part of the machine type of thing.
One of the many, yep.
So I really like that, and I also love Baxter's apartment. I think like the girl says, it's Snugsville.
Hey, this is Snugsville.
I think the lighting, it's very cozy. Like, I want all those lamps. I think the way that it's like lit though, in regards to how it's filmed, it's very cozy, comfy. It gives me this warm feeling, even though some, morally questionable things are happening at the apartment. I do think it has this sense of like a cozy feel. But yeah, I think the cinematography is great throughout, but those are kind of like two things that stand out to me most.
As we sort of said in our screwball comedies, when you are filming in black and white, it's your lighting and your set decorations that's really doing a big part of it. I love what you said about the commentary, because definitely you can see that Mad Men inspiration in that 60s corporate, women more getting into the workplace now, but having jobs like the telephone operator, the elevator girl, secretaries, things like that. The men are deplorable. The ones that are using Baxter's apartment just users, and I think it's definitely heightened. It's definitely played up the comedy for that effect, but it's not a literal representation of what was probably happening. It's more that I'm in it for the story. It's the script and the character exploration that really does it for me. This movie has won 5 Oscars. It sits on the AFI.
The Apartment, Billy Wilder.
But I think it would be only proper to cut it right in half and to give it to the two most valuable players, Mr. Jack Lemmon and Miss Shirley MacLaine. Thank you.
Do you know which Oscars off the top of your head that it won?
It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, and Best Art Direction, and Best Editing.
Beautiful. I think very evident. Easy wins. Love it. So it's our New Year Film Coven. Happy Film Coven to you, my love heart. I'm so happy we've been able to get to this Fran episode, because behind the scenes we had scheduled it before, but we've been wanting to do this one because it's just one of your most absolute favorites. I think in the future coming episodes we might do a couple of my most absolute favorite classics as well. So it's just always nice to go on this journey with you and to start it off with this character who is just so perfectly imperfect and has so much to say, and it's just a joy to talk about this movie with you. What are your thoughts on the film as a whole, Mel?
Thank you. I'm very excited for this year, and I'm very excited to start out with classics. And it only feels right that we start with Billy Wilder, because we do love Billy Wilder. We had our first episode at Sunset Boulevard, so it feels right. It feels good to have The Apartment now as an episode. Correct. But no, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this is a character in a movie that's been with me for a really long time. So it was really fun to talk about it today. And it's going to be a movie I continue to watch every year, and I feel like I always get something new from it. So I very much have enjoyed talking about it with you today.
Mel, where can people find us?
You can find us here on YouTube if you're new. Thank you for watching, and if you feel inclined, subscribe to tune in for more. Otherwise, we're on X, Letterboxd, TikTok, and Instagram, so feel free to follow us there. And until next time, stay magical. Ring-a-ding-ding. Happy New Year.
Ring out the old year, ring in the new, ring-a-ding-ding.